What's up, y'all? We're playing Monster Hunter Wilds beta today, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different. You see, I'm going to be teaching quite a few friends of mine how to play Monster Hunter once Wilds gets the full release, and I was looking at different video guides that I could recommend to them. And the one thing I realized about most beginner guides is they start at a point assuming you already have some previous experience playing Monster Hunter games. So I want to do something, a day zero quick tips, quick start guide. If you're just getting into Monster Hunter for the first time, this is going to help you out a whole lot with making the game easier to understand. And it's not going to go over things in technical detail. These are just little tips, little things that you maybe won't have explained to you that are going to help a lot. So let's go over to the tent and get started. So we're going to go inside here and I'll show you some things to consider. So this isn't actually a tip, but it's something I want you to keep in mind is please be patient with yourself while you're playing Monster Hunter. It's not a terribly hard game, but the learning curve is, I think if you approach Monster Hunter never having played one before, the learning curve is quite steep. So if things feel hard or confusing at first, don't pressure yourself. Just take it easily. Once you get the game, everything's going to click in place and you're going to have a great time, but it is a little bit confusing at start. The first thing that you're probably going to wonder when you start the game is which weapon should I play? There are so many different weapons in this game, and there's 14 different choices, so it's going to feel a little bit overwhelming, and you're going to approach different guides. These guides are going to give you meta builds. They're going to give you way more information than you'll ever be able to digest when you're new. And my advice, don't pay attention to meta, man. Just play different weapons, go out on expeditions, hunt things casually, get a feel for them at the start. There's no rush to power through the games. Like, get a feel for different things, and eventually you'll find one that will just click for you. I think I tried 5 or 6 different things before I ended up settling on Hunting Horn as my main, and you can do that too. You can go through many different things, and there's so many different play styles. Like, you have kind of your blunt Unga Bunga weapons like Hammer and Hunting Horn. You have a bunch of different cutting options. You have weapons that transform. You have lances that can play defensively. You have bow guns and ranged weapons. There's going to be a lot of different options, and now with Monster Hunter Wilds letting you pick 2 weapons at a time, I firmly believe that the only way to figure out what you want to play is to gear up with something, go out on some hunts, give it a try, maybe watch a video of that specific weapon if you start to think it's something that you're going to enjoy, and then go from there. Because if you start looking into guides and trying to pick off of guides for 14 different weapons, you're going to get overwhelmed in a hurry, because all of these weapons have so many different features, so many different combos, they all play differently. My next general piece of advice is to kind of learn what your items do. Like, you're going to have the opportunity to craft and harvest so many different items in the game, and you're going to wonder what is probably the best to have in my loadout, what's the best to have in my toolkit when I go on a hunt. I'll give you a quick rundown of what I usually bring, my like best fit, this fits most situations type of thing. I bring a full stack of potions, I bring a full stack of mega potions, I bring large barrel bombs. I bring either, so there's 2 types of traps, pitfall and shock traps. If I'm fighting an electric monster, I will usually bring a pitfall trap. Otherwise, I far prefer the shock trap. I do bring one of these because you can use them to capture monsters at the end of the hunt if you're running out of time, or you can use them just to stun the monster for a bit to put up some DPS, which can be quite helpful when you're new to the game. Usually I have flash pods in my inventory because blinding the monster is also really helpful when you're starting to get overwhelmed. And other than that, you definitely want to have rations or well done steak in your inventory as well. I usually just bring rations, but I know that the mechanics have kind of changed a bit, and well done steak can boost your max health level as well, so that might be worth looking into bringing. I don't have any right now, but depending on the type of hunt, you may want to bring either antidote if it's a poison monster, or you might want to bring nullberry if it's something that can inflict various blights on you. And blights are things like if you're fighting an electric monster, they'll inflict, I think it's, is it called Thunder Blight? Anyway, most elemental types can inflict a blight on you, and outside of poison, most of them get erased by using a nullberry. So depending on what you're fighting, you're probably going to be bringing one of these 2 as well, so that's something to keep in mind. There are other things that you can get. I'm not sure how they're implementing it in Wilds, but there's usually different buff potions, different things that can affect your stamina. Like, there's energy drink, for example, which is great, especially if you're playing something like Twin Blades, where stamina is part of your rotation of skills. The barrel bomb is, every monster, once you put up enough DPS, is going to go to sleep, and the barrel bomb is great for putting up extra damage when that happens, so it's always good to have in your inventory, particularly the large barrel bombs. The last thing to keep in mind that is crucial while you're at your tent is to go over to grill a meal. And I don't know if it's going to be in here when the full release comes out. I know there's a kitchen in the little camp, and you can go there for a meal too, I would assume. But always, no matter where you're doing it, always eat before a hunt, because if you don't eat before a hunt, you're going to have less health. You're just going to be set up a lot more poorly. Forgetting to eat is one of those things that even as a veteran player, when you leave the camp and realize you forgot to eat, you immediately are like, oh, I have made a tremendous mistake. So please keep in mind, you want to eat before every hunt. ideally. I actually talked to some friends of mine who I taught Monster Hunter years ago, what they thought were the best things to suggest, and we kind of came up with this list together. Now we're gonna get ready to go on a hunt. So we're gonna go to the quest counter and get set up. You're gonna face a lot of pressure to hunt solo in the Monster Hunter community because it's definitely like an ego thing with some people, but I don't think you really need to worry about it all that much, to be totally honest with you. But now we've set up a hunt, we're going on the hunt. The first thing I want you to keep in mind is if the hunt starts feeling like it's taking longer than you expected it to, do not panic. Monster Hunter is not a fast game. Monster Hunter is a game a lot of time. Well, I mean, there are speedrunners who can play really fast, but a lot of times for your average player, Monster Hunter is going to be a game about endurance in the fight. Like being able to survive in the fight over the duration of it is just as much a skill as being good itself. So if you're like the first time I ever played Monster Hunter 3, I got discouraged because a fight had taken over 7 minutes and I was nowhere near being done yet. And what I had learned later on was that's totally normal. Monster Hunter fights are not built to be fast. Monster Hunter fights are built to test your endurance. The next thing to keep in mind is that honestly, like, failure isn't that big of a deal, man. Monster Hunter is a game built for you to cart. You're gonna cart online. Don't get embarrassed. Don't get discouraged. It's a game where the monsters are inherently much stronger than you are. And because of that, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice if you start getting overly frustrated right away just because you're maybe not the best right off the bat. None of us were the best right off the bat. I played Monster Hunter for 3 generations and I averaged probably over 1,000 hours on each generation. And I'm still not very good at the game. Like, I'm just barely passable as a good hunting horde, man. But that's okay, because I'm having fun with the game. And I genuinely believe, you know, as a new member, being patient with yourself and just trying to have fun with Monster Hunter is gonna do you way better than stressing anything to do with learning the meta or anything. Learn a couple of basic combos for your weapon once you've picked a weapon that you like, because knowing a couple basic combos is gonna make your life like way easier once you start playing, because you'll just get into the muscle memory. But you don't need to stress being an expert right away. I know a lot of people who were scared to start Monster Hunter because they thought like, well, do I need to have an established experience with the game? Do I need to know what I'm doing ahead of time? And to be honest with you, like, yeah, it makes it easier, but there is no reality in which you need to have this sort of expert level of knowledge of Monster Hunter to play Monster Hunter. It just isn't how the game works. Mess around, experiment, and have a really good time. And then at the end of the day, as long as you're having fun and playing the game and trying to get a little bit better, like slowly and at your own pace, you're eventually gonna get the flow of the game. Because Monster Hunter has a very particular and unique flow. The next thing I have to suggest, and honestly, you might even want to do this before going on your first hunt, like just go on an expedition and do it, is learning how all your menus work. Like when you press left bumper, it brings up all this different stuff. You have this quick wheel where your sharpening thing is. Pressing X and B moves your rotational menu around to different things. Take a little bit of time to learn your menus, because the menus can be one of the most confusing parts of Monster Hunter. I won't say that that's not the case. Monster Hunter has a very particular menu system. Monster Hunter's menu system, if you're familiar with Souls-likes, is going to be nothing similar. I know a lot of people who I talk to think that Monster Hunter is going to be similar to a Souls-like. There are similar elements between Monster Hunter and a Souls-like, but if you're playing Monster Hunter for the first time after having primarily a Souls background, the menus and general navigation are not going to be the same. You have to press left bumper, you have to scroll through your different items. It seems overwhelming at first, but it's really not that overwhelming. I suggest 100% you go out and you spend some time trying to figure out how that works, because it's going to be incredibly helpful to you, since navigating your menus under pressure is going to save you probably 30% of the troubles that a lot of new members have. I've totally just made that up. Like I made that up entirely, but I feel like when I was starting and when my friends were starting, other than getting used to the pace of the hunts and failing a lot at the start, I'm so boned. One of the hardest things to do was get used to using the menus on the fly. When you're new, don't let yourself get caught standing and watching. That's how you get in the most trouble. Like, always be on the move. Even if you're not necessarily attacking because you're getting overwhelmed by what's going on, remain moving. Because if you stay moving, you have less of a chance of getting hit than if you aren't moving. And that seems obvious, but I do see a lot of new players when I'm playing Monster Hunter who quite clearly get caught monster watching. That's what we'll call it, getting caught monster watching. Keep your feet moving and it will benefit you greatly. Another thing that's new to Monster Hunter Wilds, that if you press left on the directional buttons, you bring up your secret pouch and it's got like first aid meds. In this case, it has like, here's something I was talking about to you earlier in practice. This monster is electric type, which means it can inflict thunder blight, so they have given you nullberries. There's usually items related to the specific monster you're fighting, as well as additional heals in the secret pouch, and some of the stuff restocks as you're fighting. You'll see little alerts on the right hand side that tell you when stuff has restocked. I don't have a problem with meta players, and if you want to learn the meta, that's fine. Go learn the meta. But if you just want to have fun, Monster Hunter is basically a fighting sandbox. You can create your own fighting style. You can figure out what you want to do with the tools you have been provided by the game, and that's a totally valid way to play. And I think that you should try and have fun with it like that, because in general, if you sweat the meta too much and you're not somebody who's super into meta play in most games, I don't think that it's going to be a fun experience for you, because every weapon is going to have a different meta. You're not going to know which one you want to play to begin with anyway. And it's just not going to be what you want it to be in the end. My last piece of advice, I know this isn't going to be possible for everybody, which is part of why I did that. Okay, so see, that guy just carded. He got hit by the monster. Sorry to use you as an example, random guy in my lobby. He got hit by the monster and he carded. And as you can see, I am not upset about this. It's actually kind of funny. I may cart myself because I'm not fighting very well, since I'm trying to play this guide while I'm doing this. But that's it, man. Don't be afraid to go in and make a mistake, because ultimately, if someone gets mad at you for making a mistake playing a relatively difficult game, then that's their problem. Monster Hunter is not that serious. You're not playing an esport. You're playing a PvE game with people online, and it's supposed to be a fun community that has a really nice time. And I think that it genuinely can be that. But you have to go in with the mindset to make it that, because nobody is going to make Monster Hunter fun for you. It is a game where you have to create your own fun. You have to go out there and you have to just like enjoy making your builds, enjoy fighting the monsters, enjoy the occasional jank. So if you're not clearing it first try, who cares, man? You're probably going to have to fight him 100 times overall anyway. Like, it objectively doesn't matter that much. I want you, if you're going to play this game, I want you to have fun. I want you to go out and I want you to just enjoy the experience of hunting these monsters, because I've gotten so many of my friends into Monster Hunter over the years, and the one thing that everybody agrees with is that it's an incredibly fun game, but if you stress yourself out and try to be perfect, it can be a terrible experience. And there's guys who are perfect at Monster Hunter who practice a lot to do things very quickly. Like, if you're not familiar with Team Darkside, you see a Team Darkside video of them speedrunning, and you might think, oh, I'm terrible at Monster Hunter. But that's a very specialized skill set. You don't have to be that good at Monster Hunter to be good at Monster Hunter. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, honestly, and if anybody new to the game has questions that they want to ask in the comment section, I reply to most of my comments. My usual members can attest to the fact that I'm very chatty in the comments. So don't be afraid to ask a question. I'll try my best to get back to you. I mostly play Hunting Horn and Greatsword, so I know more about those weapons than anything else. I'm more than happy to try to answer anything. I just want to get more people into Monster Hunter. It's one of those game series where once I fell in love with it, I decided I wanted to get everybody addicted to it, and it's worked really well. I've gotten quite a few of my friends addicted to it over the last little bit. So hopefully this video can help you feel like, oh, you know what? The game isn't that intimidating, really. Like, I think I can do this. I think that I can get into it. And I definitely found that when I started, the most intimidating parts were not the monsters. The monster flow, you will pick up over time, even if it takes a little bit of time. The most intimidating part was always getting used to the menus, and the most intimidating part was trying to figure out what weapon I liked. And at the time, I made the mistake, like I was talking about earlier, where I tried to figure out what meta weapon I wanted to play because I wanted to do max DPS and all that. And ultimately, I just didn't end up jiving with any of the ones that I ended up playing at that particular time. And then I picked up Hunting Horn kind of as a joke, and I fell in love with it. So you never know which weapon is going to end up being your preferred baby, but once you find it, you'll know. I have a friend who tried a bunch of different weapons and he got into Hammer, and I don't think that dude is ever going to give up Hammer because he loves bonking stuff. You just never know. Like, sometimes the simplest weapons will be the ones you end up finding the most fun for yourself. That almost deleted us, bro. We just focused on the very simple, itty-bitty things that will make you a little bit less intimidated. This is your Introduction 101 first lecture of the day type course, you know what I mean? If that helped y'all, I hope you'll consider subscribing as well. It helps the channel out a lot when people subscribe, and I'm gonna try and post more informative type of videos with Monster Hunter Wilds. I mean, in general, I'm more of a let's play guy. We play a lot of Monster Hunter, we play a lot of different RPGs as well. The next little bit is gonna be, I think, Monster Hunter and Witcher 3, so if you're into those games, it's definitely worth considering. That dude just carted again. We only have one more cart left on our hunt, and then we fail out. So I'm hoping that we're able to do this together, because in most hunts, you get 3 carts and then you're donezo. I believe that this one is a 3 carts and donezo one as well. I find that people in the Monster Hunter community are very quick to want to help out, because they're like me. They just want more people to enjoy the game. We're all just nerds who enjoy hitting monsters, bro. You don't need to be intimidated by the Monster Hunter community. Most people are not gonna fault you because you're new and you don't know what you're doing. Most people have, I mean, everybody who's played Monster Hunter for thousands of hours on different generations, we were all at a point one time where we didn't know what we were doing either. So, I mean, don't be afraid to get out there, and don't be afraid to just try. That might sound silly or overly dramatic given the fact that it's just a game, but I know people who were intimidated to get into online hunts and stuff because they didn't want to fail and they didn't want to let people down who are online. You know, the point of Monster Hunter, it's great when we succeed, but it's even better when we all succeed together. So I think that most people in the Monster Hunter community, if you're new to the game, they would prefer you be in the hunt having fun with them than you being scared to join. I think that's genuinely true. When the monster goes asleep, once you've done enough DPS to send him to sleep, you place barrel bombs around him, because this is going to do big damage. And now our friend with the bow is going to wake him up. And it ended the fight. I've actually... That was pretty good. It didn't even blow up the poor other hunting horn's barrels. They're just beside him now. Aw, it's okay to fail. You're gonna have fun failing because sometimes you get hard stuck, and that's totally fine. Because no matter what, if you're keeping a good attitude and you're doing the best that you can, you're gonna have a good time with the game and you're gonna get better. Oh, one other tip my friend wanted to mention. A lot of times Monster Hunter games throw 1,000 pop-up tutorials at you, and worrying about those can be more confusing than helpful, so I genuinely suggest if it's not something that seems relevant, just skip it and figure it out later. Maybe bad advice, but hey. Anyway, yo, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds coming out in a couple weeks here. I hope that this quick start guide helps out some day zero players a little bit, because I know that this is stuff that I definitely struggled with when I was brand new. We will revisit this topic once the actual full version of the game comes out, and I'll go over it a little bit more in depth with the full camp and all the various features that come out with that. But in general, the very, very foundational basics that I gave you here today, you'll be able to carry over, and I think it will make things a lot less confusing for you when it comes time to hunt. Until next time, friends, consider subscribing if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you later on. Peace.